At 4 p.m. on any weekday, you could be guaranteed to hear the laughter and the cheering as a multitude of gleeful children exiting the heavy green doors of what was then Perry School. They headed into the back 40, where in winter a giant frozen puddle formed in a very large low spot. The children raced to break the ice and listen to it crackle and watch as water bubbled up to the surface, only to be frozen again by the time they returned the next morning. In spring, the ice melted and formed a huge mud pit. It enticed every child to cross, to the dismay of mothers everywhere who were left to clean up their mess. The children dispersed at the end of the path to go their separate ways. Groups of neighborhood kids tended to travel together. Their learning did not stop when the kids left the schoolyard. In a way, it had just begun. On these routine trips from school, they learned tolerance and how to throw a well-made snowball, and whose yard it was okay to cut through to shorten their trip home. It took me several times to learn how to avoid being pushed into the red pickle bush at the corner. The adventure was reversed the next morning as everyone raced to the schoolyard to play again in the ice and raced to the school to be greeted by a joyful custodian who allowed one child to take the ring of keys and unlock the school door for the day. One morning, I was chosen to be the master of the keys. I felt wonderful and very important as I was the first to enter the hallowed halls of Perry School that day.
The class sizes were large compared to today's standards, with each class housing 25 to 30 rowdy, loud, very busy children. Each child knew the good and the bad of fellow classmates because, on average, the children in your kindergarten class were also in your grade 8 graduating class. The school did have an influx in its population in 1966 when Meadow Lee School on London Road closed and the school boundaries were readjusted. It was a basic school with no extras. We had physical education outside, and in inclement weather, we had it in the halls on tumbling mats. School assemblies were held in the kindergarten classroom. All the students were crammed in and would sit down on the floors in rows with their assigned classes. Teachers stood at the end of the rows trying to keep their class under control, usually to no avail. Christmas season was very special and exciting. Art projects were dedicated to the holiday, and every week in December, music class was arranged in the hall with other grades. Singing could be heard throughout the school, being accompanied by an old upright piano that had been pushed out of the kindergarten room for the occasion. In 1968, an addition was built onto the school. We would gain a gym, library, and new experimental classroom called a pod. To our dismay, we would be losing a very large veranda, which meant that we now would have to settle for indoor recess when it rained. Perry School went through a name change in 1972 when the school board decided it would now be known as George Perry School. Rumor has it that people were connecting it with the famous sports Perry, as in Norm Perry Park, and not George Perry, who is known for his public dedication to the area in the time the school was built. It will always be remembered simply as Perry School to those of us who were lucky enough to spend our early years there back in 1950 and 1960s. The school's population dwindled over the years and it closed in the early 1980s. The building has had a long history of educating Sarnians. From its early start as a township school known as SS number 6W Sarnia in 1949 till after city boundaries changed and the school became part of the Sarnia Public School Board. The name would then be changed to Perry School in 1951. The school even housed the original members of the Dunlop United Church while its building was under construction on Hall Street in the early 1950s. The property was bought by the Sarnia YMCA in 2002, where it continues to be a place of education. It housed a daycare center, newcomer services, a challenge rope course, along with a youth leadership program. The building may be old, gone through several renovations and be repurposed over the years, but it also housed something that you cannot see, the wonderful memories of several generations of children who grew up in a much simpler time.